The earliest memories I've got of music are when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my brother and I would muck around in our parents' living room in Kent in South East England, where we grew up, listening to my parents' old record collection. My mum loved singer-songwriters like Don McLean and James Taylor, Simon and Garfunkel, so we were pretty lucky. We had a great sort of musical upbringing in our house, and I think at the same time I was starting to sort of awaken musically myself. You know, it's very young, but I can distinctly remember being dragged home from school one day by my mum on a sled through the snow, coming up with a song. So, you know, I think for me the two things were kind of happening at quite an early age.
The mightiest hand is small. We will maintain high pressure. We will organize. We will maintain high pressure. We will maintain high pressure. We will organize.
My first experience of singing in public, I think, was at church. My mum used to take us to church on Sunday mornings, and you know, obviously do all the singing of the hymns and all that kind of stuff, and they had a band at church. Our church was kind of hip for an English church, you know. We used to usually have the organ or the droning, but we had a proper band with electric guitar and tambourine and drums, and that's where I started to sing really in public for the first time. And you know, I used to have a competition with the person next to you to sing the loudest, so I started to learn to project my voice, and that was, you know, as I was a young teenager. And also as a young teenager, my brother was starting to broaden his own musical horizons, and he had a great record collection, CD collection of all the sort of latest bands and everything. And on a Friday and Saturday night, you know, he'd go out with his friends for a party or whatever, and I'd sort of creep unknown into his bedroom and just experiment with all the magical CDs on his wall. And you know, there's hi-fi there. I'd just grab a CD. Who's this? Wow, Neil Young. Okay, we'll put that in and turn it up, and you know, constantly having my mind blown by all these new tastes I was getting. And you know, Pete and my brother had a great sort of range of music. You have, you know, things like Hendrix and the latest British bands like the Stone Roses, New Order, The Cure, old REM, but you know, also some experimental stuff like Dr. John, and you know, just a real great sort of experience for me to be learning about all these different types of music through him. As well as being the gateway to sort of all that different type of music, my brother was also the gateway to my first sort of dabblings with the guitar. He had a left-handed guitar, I was right-handed, and again, you know, when he was out, I'd sneak into his room and just plug his electric guitar in and play. And I remember one night he came home unexpectedly and caught me playing his guitar in his room, and being my brother, instead of being angry with me, he actually just took one of his old guitars, restrung it right-handed and gave it to me. But I soon found I couldn't actually play it right-handed, so I just went back to sneaking back into his room and playing his guitar. And so, you know, I started playing in a few bands when I was at school, but it wasn't, I think, until I really got to university where it all started to really happen for me, in terms of my own creativity and my own sort of band experiences. You know, you meet all different kinds of people at university. There's people from all different walks of life with all different types of music tastes, and I was playing guitar in an 8-piece funk band. I was playing a little bit of, you know, indie rock, some singer-songwriter stuff, and also at the same time, obviously, university is a place where you broaden your horizons generally, and again, musically I was doing that. I was going down to the record shops and just picking out anything and listening to it. Chinese classical music, free jazz, you know. Started to get into a lot of reggae then, and a lot of African music. I had a radio show with a friend of mine on the university radio called Africa. It was called World Music and Africa Funk or something like that. So, you know, yeah, that was all kind of starting to come together there with all the different influences. I was studying an English degree at university, and that kind of fueled my appetite for adventure, broadening my mind. And when I got towards the end of the degree, in my third year, I decided to write letters to loads of newspapers around the world asking for a job as a reporter. Not really expecting anything back, but just sort of dreaming and hoping that something would come. And I got a letter through the post from the Stabroek News in Guyana, and I was just like, wow, this is going to be great fun. I remember just, writing back straight away saying I'm going to do it, and then a few months later I was out in Georgetown in Guyana having the time of my life. And I think when I got over the initial culture shock that I guess everyone has when you go to a country you're sort of not familiar with, I started having some great adventures. It was going down into the interior, into the Amazon, writing about gold mining, writing about the environment, illegal logging, tracking police investigations into gruesome murders in the city. I'm meeting some wonderful people and being exposed to different types of music there. I had a mixtape that I bought from the guy who pushed his little trolley down the street, with all different types of popular reggae on there and different types of R&B as well. It was just really kind of a real explosion of senses for me being out there. And actually one of the songs on our album, our debut single called Liberation Theology, was inspired by my time in Georgetown after elections, and there was a riot and a protest in the street, and I got locked out of my newspaper compound. They wouldn't let me back in, and I found myself in the street, so not surrounded, but sort of people everywhere, placards, shouting more fire, and that's where I got an idea for a chorus for a song, and it just stuck with me, and I wanted to document that, and I think that's something that's quite important to me in music, is that music has a message, and it documents things that are important, and at the same time has a conscience as well. After I'd been in Guyana a little while, I got offered a job in Jamaica at the Jamaica Gleaner in Kingston, and decided I might as well give that a shot. And I went back home for a little bit, said hello to my family and friends, and then got on a plane, went out to Kingston, and again another amazing experience of things you just don't expect. You hear what Jamaica's supposed to be like, sun, sand, surf, whatever, reggae music, but it's a very complicated and interesting place, as well as an extremely beautiful place. And it's sort of seared into my mind, really, that the difficulties people have there, and as well as the beauty and the serenity of it. I was lucky enough to travel around the island with the then Prime Minister PJ Patterson on an election tour, and it really struck me how amazing the people are there, but also how different the island is for a relatively small place. You've got the resorts over on the west coast, and then the inner city areas of Kingston and Spanish Town, where there's obviously a lot of crime and a lot of poverty. There's a real melting pot of different types of cultures and people really there, and obviously the reggae, the dancehall, all these things were going into my mind and feeding into my music as well. And I was there for a little while, and I think it was then I sort of just really started to think I really want to concentrate on my music. I'd sort of had this time away and had all these influences come into me in a different way that I hadn't had before, and it really started to sort of get within me a sense of purpose about what I wanted to do with my life, and that was music.
For a sense of sound and believing, for a sight of life and beyond, for the warmth of the bed when you
So I came back home to Britain, came to London, didn't have a job, didn't really know what to do with myself, how to start, and just started getting some friends together and forming a band, and we ended up recording an album in northern England at a place called Vale Studios, very vintage kind of studio, real authentic kind of vibe in there. Just was writing songs, playing, and we pulled it together, and actually I found that a lot of the songs I was writing, a lot of the stuff we were doing, was actually about a lot of my time away. You had this song called South America, which was about the adventure of going somewhere like South America, and the freedom you feel when you're out there, and the questions you ask yourself when you're on your own having an experience like that. other songs like We Will Maintain is a very sort of reggae kind of feel, conscious kind of song about, you know, the struggle and protesting against things that aren't right, and, you know, just keeping on going when things are getting tough, and staying true to yourself. So there's lots of different types of songs on the album, and it's coming out early next year. We've got a big build up to it coming on now, and just really looking forward to it. We've had a great year for the band. We played at Glastonbury Festival, which is the biggest festival in Europe. We played there 6 times, you know, sort of supporting people like Beyonce and U2 and Coldplay. So, you know, there's a pretty big year for us, and we did a gig with Bob Marley's guitar player Junior Marvin a couple of months back, sellout show in London, and that was a real experience. Getting to meet someone like him who'd met Bob Marley, who'd been around those kind of people, and with the talent that he's got and still has at his age, it's fantastic, great guy. So yeah, we're really looking forward to the year ahead. I think it's going to be a big year for Smoke Feathers. Yeah, so the name Smoke Feathers, it's actually a bit of a strange one. It's been inspired by a Native American folk tale which I stumbled across quite a few years ago, a sort of a North American Indian tribe. It's a story about how the raven's feathers came to be black. They were originally apparently white in this folk tale, and the story goes that there was this sort of overlord, slightly evil overlord, who had control of the sun and the stars and the moon and the water and the fire, and there was Raven, who fell in love with this Grey Eagle's daughter, and also wanted to bring. He went to, you know, the Grey Eagle's house, saw these elements, and he wanted to bring them to the earth so that, you know, everyone could share them. And he went up and he grabbed all the different bits, the water and the fire, dropped them in different places. Well, as he was carrying the fire, the smoke and the flames from the brand burnt all of his feathers black. So that was sort of how the raven came to have his black feathers, was by bringing light to the world. And I guess it's kind of, you know, the kind of thing that we try and do with our music. We want to enlighten people and you know, and bring a bit of love back into the world. So our album's called Liberation, and it feels like a liberation. It's taken us a couple of years to get it finished. We've had all different types of wranglings with the music industry, and just, you know, it's just great to be putting it out. I'm sure there's many musicians that can tell you about that. Musically, it's a real fusion of stuff. You know, I think it's kind of got pretty much every kind of style I've ever listened to. There's 4-part harmonies, vocal harmonies. There's you know, reggae bass lines. There's some rock guitar. There's acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. There's down-tempo soul. We kind of call it alternative soul, the sound we have. And I think there's something for everyone on there. You know, really pleased with how it came out in the end. Yeah, so Smoke Feathers coming to the BVI. We're, you know, really excited about coming to the Virgin Islands. Never been, it's our first trip. Heard a lot about it. You know, heard it's a very beautiful place, lovely people. Bringing a friend called John Blood with us, who's a friend from London, who's a singer-songwriter originally. He's brought up in Trinidad, so he's bringing his own vibe. He's going to be playing bass for us and doing his own thing as well.
All we need is a view. Say we gonna see the sunrise, but the clouds are in the way. We gonna see the sunrise, but it looks like maybe not today. So we went on a hill, and saw the town get light. The town get light, the town get bright, but the sun never showed.